talk a little bit about incorporating hands-on activities in remote teaching. We know that COVID-19 presented a lot of challenges to everyone when campuses had to close down starting in early 2020. And instructors made lots of efforts to quickly convert class materials to the online environment when in-person instruction was no longer possible. This transition presented a lot of opportunities, but it also presented some challenges. And so we'll talk about what those opportunities and challenges were, and what people can do as instructors to develop new teaching strategies that can encourage students to learn despite online course delivery. So some of the advantages of teaching remotely: all work can be asynchronous. Students can do the work whenever it works for them. Shy students engage more. I noticed that in my classes, when I did online discussions, some students would engage more than they would in the classroom. And it also forced us as instructors to be more prepared and transparent. But there were some challenges, right? So conversion of labs to the online environment, particularly if they were field labs, provided some challenges, and I'll talk about that. And then students also could feel more disconnected and also less motivated to complete assignments. So we'll talk about that as well. So tackling the first challenge, this is about converting labs to the online environment. I was teaching a freshwater ecology course, and so I'll talk a little bit about development of 4 independent hands-on field activities that we developed for our course. So the first thing I wanted to mention was that we need to make sure that students had the equipment that they needed to do the labs. So we designed the labs either using readily accessible items at home, or we sent items to students or asked that they pick them up on the campus. And then we also suggested that students use online web resources to find locations with easy access that were on public land so they could do these activities. So one activity that we created was a field wetland characteristics investigation, where students learned about wetland function, hydric soils, hydrology, and hydrophytes. And they did field samplings of plants within a quadrat that they designed themselves, and did soil sampling. Another field lab that we did was a land water habitat assessment, where we gave them a spreadsheet, and they filled out the spreadsheet when they were at the site, and they used the assessment form to characterize habitat quality. And then also we had them do benthic macroinvertebrate studies using sweep nets, where we sent them sweep nets or gave them sweep nets, and then they collected invertebrates and looked at those invertebrates to figure out what the water quality was. At this stage, they also set leaf and rock packs, and then returned 5 weeks later to collect those macroinvertebrates. And so the final lab was to look at what they collected from those leaf and rock packs. We also had another strategy that we used in order to convert labs to online environment. So we used the R statistical software package to create a number of different studies that students could analyze data from. And so one was adding a trend line to long-term ice duration data from 3 lakes in Wisconsin. We also had them analyze data in R on macroinvertebrates, chlorophyll A, Arctic gray-link fish, and moss from 2 locations to look at the differences between fertilized and non-fertilized sites and detect patterns. So overall, students were able to get out and do some field work on their own, and they were also able to learn some new strategies in doing statistical analysis. Now, looking at the second challenge was about that students would potentially feel more disconnected and maybe less motivated to complete assignments. So in order to create more connectedness, we created threaded discussions. We created Ask Me Anything chats. We had Zoom sessions with the TA and the instructor. And then to help students complete their assignments, we created frequent reminders. We reached out to students individually who were falling behind. We created extra credit opportunities, and in general, just tried to make sure that there was a lot of connectedness with the students. We got a number of different opportunities to get student feedback. And so this is an example of some of the feedback that we got. And so overall, students were fairly happy with how things went, and did find that they learned a lot, even though it was in more of an online environment for what would typically be a field class. So just to wrap up, it's important to make sure everything is transparent and clear and well documented, and thoughtful and frequent communication is necessary. Thank you for tuning in.